Hello all, and welcome to the Build Your Own project. What you and I will be doing is very simple. We're going to create a fantasy world and tell the story within it. This won't just be a choose-your-own adventure. This entire story will be us slowly forming a world and its people while I bring it to life with my text. I'm going to be conducting this narration as though I am the GM or Game Master, and you are my players. You will be selecting your character, where this character begins, and how they act on their journey, who they make friends with, who they choose as their enemy, what it is they seek. Even the weather and where the trail itself goes will be entirely in your hands. At the end of each section, you, the listeners, will be able to vote on a series of options which will determine the course of the story. The character you select may evolve to become petty and jealous, or perhaps patient and kind. It's your story, ultimately. I'll just be the one filling in the blanks as we go along. Let's start with your characters. Choose any one of these characters, whichever seems most interesting to you, but don't worry. Those that have not been selected may yet show up as side characters along the way. How the chosen character reacts to them, however, is up to you. Blasco. This giant of the north is both fearsome and mighty, and a true terror to behold in battle. A mercenary by trade, Blasco admits openly he's performed as many seedy tasks as legitimate, and has no qualms ending petty squabbles with his giant poleaxe. He's hunted darklings, worms, infernals, you name it, though never without the aid of his loyal bronze mastiff, little Pepe. The two are inseparable, and as far as anyone can tell, Pepe is probably the only one Blasco ever has kind words for, the magic-infused canine seeming quite sentient and aware of his master's wishes. Though appearing aimless and without true purpose, haunting dreams have begun assaulting the mercenary in the quietest of his slumbers, urging him to ask questions he never knew he had. Blasco's memories of his childhood have always been terribly disjointed, vague and almost incomprehensible. Where did he come from? Where were his people? And who exactly was he? He's never known the answer to these questions, but now, all of a sudden, it weighs far heavier on his mind than it ever has before. Perhaps if he retraces his journey, he may just rediscover his origins. Denali. Small of stature and curious of nature, this slender being can seem almost childlike at times given his tendency to assault a new acquaintance with questions, but at the same time, he is oddly wise for his seemingly young years. Mysticism pulses through his veins and shows clearly in the phosphorescent nature of his cobalt eyes, and given how he tends to fly and float about instead of walk, it's not hard to tell that he has control of some pretty useful magics. Garrulous and chatty to the point of almost being annoying, the lad's good nature always manages to shine through, his intentions as pure as his own sense of trust for others. Though he drifts and wanders in what would appear to be a constant state of interest-driven chaos, it would be more accurate to say that he's running from something. Something he's fairly positive still hunts him. Something that will not leave him alive, if found. Tivan. As mysterious as she is deadly, this dangerously beautiful woman can seem interesting, even charming. But just as quickly can her mood sour, her intentions bared as quickly as her fangs. Her ability to shapeshift from something seemingly human to the stark contrast of what she truly is would be reason enough to fear her, but that's not all this clever warrior possesses. Wreathed in shadow magics, and born with natural talents for alchemy, dreams of grandeur grew in the woman's mind as she realized all she was capable of. With a history of pain seared into her very scales, she carries the heaviest of grudges and dreams of utter vengeance, each killing a slow step forward towards the ultimate target. Filar. Friendly, charitable, patient, and ultimately understanding, this kindly creature is the sort most have a hard time hating. Her talents as an herbal healer are near legendary, and the maps she's painted have been bought and sold throughout several kingdoms. Driven by wanderlust and a need to continually learn, the winged nomad searches wide and far for new cultures and magics to document, aiding those in need as she finds them along the way. From helping caravans with bandits to saving drowning children, if she witnesses it, she will always try to intervene, even at the risk of her own life. But despite it all, the woman hides something even from those she trusts, some secret only she knows, and something which, if she's not careful, will soon cause her doom. Zephyr. Odd, eccentric, or maybe just a little out of touch, this mysterious being, which seems and sounds unusually androgynous, is little more than a question mark to those that meet them. They are friendly, they are polite, but they often ask very odd questions. The sorts of questions normal, functioning citizens wouldn't be asking. Why do watermills keep spinning? Why do certain birds sink in water and others float? What forces cause clouds to shift shape and position? What is a smile? Many assume the oddly masked being sick or confused. They often ask after his health, or if they had family or friends nearby to aid them. Others assume them a fool or entertainer and offer them coin for their curious conversation. This only seems to confuse the masked being and create fodder for further questions, so many of which there are still no answers for. The one thing they do know is they must keep moving. Something in the back of their mind warns them to keep moving. Never stay. Never tarry. Keep moving. Once you've made up your mind on which character's perspective you prefer, we then move on to starting locations. Viraj region. The region of Viraj is torn between supple hills with fertile coastland and a dry lakebed desert on their eastern half. A series of temperate islands hug the western coast while the mainland itself holds the majority of the population density. Caravan trails weave back and forth along the long landmass, carrying the necessary goods between sparse oasis settlements and underground layers. A wide variation of species calls the region home, but most are on fairly good terms with their neighbors, their caravans and trading as much a necessity of life as a means of wealth and fortune. Garrow Tangle. Within the tangle lies a hot, humid mess of swamps, downs, and jungle so thick it layers upon itself in pseudo-stories. Within these layers reside different breeds of flora and fauna, many of which can be downright dangerous. Venomous flying serpents, giant carnivorous eels, and even sentient shapeshifters will haunt the misty, fog-hugged expanse. The cultures that reside here have learned to be as one with the hostile environment, to blend in and work with the ecosystem instead of against it. As a result, settlements are often invisible to the naked eye, and guides are a true survival necessity. Basha Expanse. Imagine the wildest, most open stretch of land you possibly can. Imagine grasslands for miles, leagues of swaying, wild grain, and the ever-occasional tree or shrub. Only one woodland exists upon the expanse, and it is fiercely protected by its native tribe. Most tribes which call the expanse their home are fairly cooperative, given the sparse nature of resources, but outsiders can make them nervous, even hostile. It's not uncommon for expedition parties to be politely asked to leave by lines of armed natives pointing back the way the party had trekked. The smarter ones heed the warnings. The lesser so never wind up so lucky. Hanu Alliance. Within the most densely populated continent lay the most developed cities and kingdoms. Magic and alchemic technology are rife here, as cities are built like bustling metropolises with golem-fueled transportation systems and cascading residential districts. Airships patrol the busiest regions, while outlying farms and communities are kept fairly tech-free for sake of ease and comfort for livestock and residents who prefer a more rural lifestyle. What was once a place of strife and war became united under a single king who banished the monarchy to institute a much more democratic system of elected officials. Now the alliance is run by a council, with delegates from each of the 4 quarters and established towns, voted for by their local citizens with plenty of ability to impeach if they are unsatisfied. From snowy mountain peaks to fertile farmlands, Hanu has it all, and calls a wide gambit of cultures its own. Ritachi Ball, the Savage Lands. No stretch of land is so feared, so avoided, and so absolutely desolate as the Savage Lands. Rendered inert and fruitless from a magical calamity some 2,000 years prior, the denizens have long since mutated in accordance and have developed into strange, dangerous races. Cannibalistic, fierce, and focused only on survival, the cultures of Ritachi Ball seem to understand only each other or are simply unwilling to converse or make peace with the outside races. They capture, enslave, and usually eat any they locate or otherwise keep them for horrible tortures. For some, it's unknown what happens to the captured, but few if any survivors ever remain to find out. Layered in clouded darkness, rife with electrical and aether storms, and with not a scrub or stick of brush for absolute miles. The craggy wasteland is cold and dry, but never rains or snows. Instead, the strange, ethereal storms wreak havoc across the land and suck the souls from those who dare try and cross them. Some have learned to traverse this dangerous realm, but few ever seek to. Now to starting concepts. This is the loose scenario your character starts out in. Choose the one you find most interesting. A fight scene or ambush. Having to escape from a tense situation. Beginning a grand journey. Finding an old friend you long thought dead. Intercepting a dying messenger with harrowing news. Setting your own ambush. Executing a contract. Escaping from a jail cell. Breaking a contract out of a jail cell. Enslaved and auctioned by pirates. And last but not least, what is it we shall call this ever-growing world of ours? Ophirian, Talmon, Duran, Martellin, Gilana, Prism, Antir, Gelis, Evolt, Maltese. Well, that's it. It's up to you to make your choices, vote, and based on your decisions, this story will soon come to life. I look forward to seeing what character is voted highest and helping to unravel this adventure for the both of us. For the first time, but soon as always, thanks for listening, thanks even more for taking part, and remember, every story is worth telling, so tell it like the whole world is listening.